Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the big and furry bovine. It is yet another Friday as we lead into the weekend with more stuff to talk about. Joining me is Brian in Arizona and weathering the storm up in Minnesota, Tony the Calf. Tony, you're not well. You're not well.
No, it's I don't know if it's COVID. There has been a run in there has been a run in my neighborhood of Ramsay Hunt. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's like a viral infection that paralyzes part of your brain.
Oh my.
And yeah, so I don't know if it's that or
Well, I would
COVID.
have thought, knowing you all the years I've known you, that you had that years ago, the
Yeah.
brain paralysis part.
That was just cerebral palsy.
I don't even want to go there.
But it's been hell a couple days, but I think I'm starting to see the light, and I actually am up to joining the program. Although,
well, we're always happy to have you, and we want you to be well. So,
and happy birthday to Brian!
Yeah, happy birthday, Brian. That's 48, ain't it?
Yep.
How about that? You made it to 48, you happy fella.
Tomorrow is
about 10 years longer than I actually expected.
And tomorrow I turn triple decade.
Yeah, you're turning 30.
30 tomorrow. Yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And me, I'm still holding at 63. What I'm holding my gut.
Hey, it could be worse. You could be holding your colostomy bag or your,
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm doing everything I can to improve my.
It would be even worse if you had to hold your prostate.
Oh my goodness!
It's the size of the Great Pumpkin.
So now Brian has celebrated his 48th birthday by spewing venom and hated Hillary Clinton. So I know you're feeling fine. So there you have it. We got a lot to talk about today, and I wanted to start out. I always like to dovetail programs. It's like begin kind of in a way how you ended. Now, do you believe me? I mean, you're in a situation where the league wants the Steelers to be 16-0, and literally, as we were talking about the hideous spot in the Browns-Steelers game many years ago, and comparing that to the hideous spot that we received and the hideous call, even though the chain link was short of, was even with the football, they still said we didn't make it. And the Steelers, when you saw them, they didn't make it either, but they made it. Everything's a first down for the Steelers. It's really become ridiculous. And again, there is nothing good I can tell you about the NFL. The league plays favorites, and it's bad. The Ravens did the best they could with nothing on the field. The Steelers, even by Tomlin's admission, played like a junior varsity team and didn't even deserve to win the football game. But there they were at the end, stacked up short. And there it was, the same exact flag position in the Browns game so many years ago, where it was clearly short of a first down, and they just gave it to him. And the announcers double take said that they gave it to him. And that just says it all. They give them everything. That franchise has been gifted so many times, it's ridiculous. And I'm not a big-time Ravens fan. You all know that. But you see, the league figures it this way. The Ravens, if you haven't figured it out, have the easiest schedule left of all teams in the NFL in the final 5 weeks of the season. That's the fact, Jack. One of those games is against the Cleveland Browns. That's the hardest game they have. The rest is against Peggy Sue, who got married yesterday.
But not to me.
So they can win out. And, all this mystery. Now they're saying that McSorley is the only quarterback they have because the reliable RG3 got hurt in his only start. Did you see RG3 in that game? My God. He made Johnny Manziel look like he had a bright future. My God, that first interception
he's playing on one leg. I mean,
he shouldn't be
really
playing now, should he? I mean, he just doesn't have any arm strength. He's short arming the ball. He throws the pick six to Hayden in the beginning of the game and buries his team. He's got none of the quicks that he used to have, and he's like Randall Cunningham as far as now what he's got left athletically, but he doesn't have Randall Cunningham's arm or pocket presence, and that's that. Finito. But, you know, they're saying now he's injured and put on IR and has to miss the next 3 weeks. And it's like this as the world turns NFL thing. It's like, well, you know, Lamar Jackson could be back, though. He could be back. Well, of course he's going to be back. Does anybody?
Well, yeah, they're not playing until Tuesday, and then after they play the Cowboys, our game is supposed to be a Monday nighter. So
that's right.
In that time, unless there's another massive outbreak, their players should be back against us.
Well, I think he's going to be back against the Cowboys. Want to make a bet?
Yeah,
they can't afford to have McSorley at quarterback.
He should be cleared by Monday.
They will not beat the Dallas Cowboys with Troy McSorley as the quarterback, okay? They won't. And the league can't afford that. They will find a way, one way or another, to get Lamar Jackson back on the field to defeat the Dallas Cowboys to get the ball rolling. I guarantee it, 100%. 100%. Bet your house on it. That's what the NFL does. And you know something? I'm sick and tired of the nonsense of how teams that are already in the plans of the NFL as having the highest profiles suddenly get gifted all kinds of things. And it's like, oh, look who's getting yet a sixth opportunity. It's Josh Pothead Gordon. Yeah, we're going to let him play the final 2 weeks. We're going to let him play for a couple of weeks here with the, with the Seahawks. Because, gosh, could you imagine him and DK Metcalf at the same time? Oh, we've got a headline now. We love headlines and ratings. Who was the last team who unjustly got that asshole back? The New England Patriots. When Tom Brady was there. Oh, what a coincidence. Did the Browns ever get him back? No. He's gone for the next 18 years. He's gone until the next glacial age. Yeah, all he has to do is sign up with a contender.
In fact, he was suspended after the very first game against the Steelers. His only pass was a 17-yard touchdown catch.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, that guy should never have another opportunity to play again. It's just that simple. He shouldn't even be in the league. Enough is enough. You can't have credibility and keep doing shit like this. The league has lost me. And it's unfortunate in a season where the Browns are doing nicely and better than anticipated. The league just continues to lose me. I have no hope. Even the NBA, which we know the NBA is kind of a sticky mess. Once we got into Game 7 with the Warriors, it became apparent when that game didn't shift. They let them play down the stretch, man. That was like two rock'em sock'em robots. They did not fix that seventh game. They didn't. They said, may the best team win. And everyone thought that the Warriors were the best team, but for that night, they surely weren't. And out of sheer exhaustion, I mean, they all fell over and, one 3-pointer down the stretch and a chase down, block shot and bingo, we have the championship. So, I just don't have any faith in the NFL as a league. I have another thing that's bothering me today, and it has nothing to do with the Browns. It has nothing to do with the Titans. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with high school football. Did you see the kid who's playing for Edinburgh High School? You know, they love their football in Texas. Did you see this video of the kid literally charge the field after being ejected for 2 unsportsmanlike?
Yeah, I shared the story to Facebook and Twitter.
Unbelievable. Runs out onto the field and waylays, just hauls off and crushes the official who had tossed him. All right. Now, it sounds like, okay, the kid was an all-state player, and it's this will forever change this young man's life, and, well, it should. He's the District 31 6A Defensive Player of the Year last season. He's also their kicker and punter and a star wrestler, and he's also got an anger management problem. But more significantly than that, why was the team removed from the playoffs when they won the game just because of this ass clown? Somebody has to explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Those kids worked their ass off for that win. It was a 35-21 win. And they won their playoff game and should be moving forward. But for the actions of some dumb fuck, how can the whole team be penalized for what one person does? That would have been like if Myles Garrett did what he did against Mason, the Rudolph Reindeer.
Valentino.
If they just gave the game to the Steelers, which they were probably considering doing. But could you imagine if they just said, no, this totally alters the outcome of the game. The Steelers win. How is that feasible?
Or making the Browns forfeit the next 4 games or whatever. Just making them all automatic losses.
And Rick saying the same kid slammed a ref at a soccer game last year. He's obviously got problems, right? Which would make you wonder why he's out on a football field if he did this on a soccer field last year. You know, again, what is it all about? But still, I'm not saying that the kid doesn't have a screw loose. I just don't understand. Brian, why should the whole team, or Tony, or anyone in the chat room, why should the team forfeit the game because of what one guy did? Because he's got an anger management issue.
There's no way you can explain that. That's insanity.
Well, there is a way, and the way to explain it is not really going to be particularly kind. All right, but the pressure.
The only thing is if the kid was already had come off the sidelines to hit the ref. If nobody had stopped him from,
well, there were two other people running after him. Nobody figured he's going to run out in the field and do that shit.
But that's as close as I can come to why they would penalize the team more, or the school more than just. And I believe the kid's facing assault charges and all kinds of
stuff. Class A assault. But look at this. Here's what the Edinburgh, the district of the school wrote. The district has decided to remove Edinburgh High School football team from the playoffs after an unexpected incident involving a student that occurred during a football game. The Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District announced Friday, we extend a sincere apology to the referee and his family on behalf of the CISD Board of Trustees and administration. We apologize to the athletes, staff, our school, community. We get on our knees and genuflect. We ask and pray for forgiveness in the eyes of God and Christ's blood. Amen. No, they didn't say the last part. I did. But you see, you got to take swift action. You got to take swift action because then the scrutiny turns to you. This is the kind of pathetic world that we live in. I'm sorry, that kid is responsible for what he chose to do. But the other kids on that football team are not responsible for what that kid chose to do. I mean, if you're going to take the whole team and just exit them, jettison them from the playoffs, fire the coach. Go ahead, make him responsible too, cost him his job. Take him away from his parents and fuck his parents over. I mean, what is next? And I am not a libertarian, folks, okay? But this is ridiculous. This is like the same kind of shit. It's like,
he looked funny at me 30 years ago on the movie set. He's a perv. He looked funny at me.
You know, that's a bunch of horse shit. That's a bunch of horse shit. You know, it's like, you know, we can't look bad. We can't be tarred by that brush. We can't be. So we're going to do this decisive action that's going to screw all the good young men who put in all that work to get that far in the season, and screw them, to rob them from an experience in life that they worked for. And what kind of, you know, what kind of a rat ship? God, I sound like, here we go. Let's do it. We'll do Colonel Slade, right? From Scent of a Woman. Hoo-ah! What kind of a rat ship are you running here? That
They should burn this damn place to the ground.
If I were younger, I'd take a blowtorch to the... No, we're not even going to go there. That's going to blow my microphone out. But I don't understand. It's teaching kids that hard work and winning and fair play doesn't matter. That if one guy beside you doesn't conform to an acceptable social standard, you all are treated just like him. He's not going to play in the game either. Yeah, he's got assault charges, and well, he should. He should go to jail, a little prick. He's got a problem, man. He's got to go to a psychologist. He's sick. But the other kids, I don't know. They didn't deserve it.
Now, if this incident had happened in the late 70s or 80s, we would have just chalked it up to roid rage.
Yeah.
We're in the early 90s.
Yeah. Bronk is saying my Scent of a Woman Pacino sounds a lot like Tommy Heinsohn. No, Tommy Heinsohn, you know, it would be a little bit different. You know, Tommy Heinsohn would be something like this. Let me do if I could do from Scent of a Woman. So you call yourself a bad man. I don't mean a bad man. I mean bad man. The cradle will rock. You see, he's down here. And hoo-ah! Hoo-ah's up here. Forget it. It's too nuanced and subtle for you, Bronk. I never said that I was a method actor, okay? So at any rate, that's that story just really got under my skin. Now let's start talking about what matters to us. The Ohio State Buckeyes will play Michigan State on Saturday, as planned. All right, and I wasn't joking. Trace McSorley is the quarterback now, as it stands right now for the Ravens, who just hit again with an injury to RG3. If you didn't,
now the last Trace that I remember playing in the league was Trace Armstrong for the Bears, who was a defensive lineman and a pretty decent one.
I remember a song "Traces" by the Classics 4. Dennis Yost was the lead singer, and I remember "Tracy" by the Cufflinks, another hit that was in like the late '60s. Yeah. Without a Trace, that was a movie. Yep. The Tennessee Titans. I want to point something out. Everybody is going to go to the stats, and we always go to the stats. But now I'm going someplace completely different because I'm a cow and I have hooves and I dig deeper. It isn't that I dig deeper. It's that I look at something and I say, you know, I see a pattern here. The season starts out for the Titans this year, and they beat the Denver Broncos, who we know are not a good team, no matter who is quarterbacking them. But they won 16-14. Barely got it done. Then they turn around and they played Gardner Minshew's Jacksonville Jaguars. We know how bad a team they are. And they barely won 33-30. Then they played Tony's Minnesota Vikings and gave up 30 again in back-to-back games, but they won 31-30. Then they had their bye week, and everyone said, you know, gosh, we're 3-0 here, but why are we giving up 30 points to Jacksonville and 30 points to Minnesota, for God's sakes? And why are we playing every game that's decided by 3 points or less? And then all the pundits say, you know, that run last year that got them to the AFC Championship game, just dumb luck. Never happened again with a 9-7 team. They're really not that good. Then they come out against Buffalo, and they beat Buffalo 42-16. Then it's like, wow, that's an impressive win. Buffalo is a pretty damn good football team, and that's right at a time where their quarterback is unconscious and completing 72% of his passes. And not just dink passes, but downfield laser jets. So what comes next? That's right, Steven's horrible team. The only team that can give Steven indigestion, for God's sakes. The Houston Texans. And they win 42-36 in overtime. They barely get by. They're 5-0 at this point.
Indigestion and a drinking binge all at the same time.
And then a drunken video after the game.
The road to the Super Bowl is over.
Fuck everybody! Fuck everybody! Okay.
This is my 4th or 5th one. I forget.
No, Jack Daniels. One time he was swigging Jack Daniels in one of those videos. He was a hardcore man. It's like, wow. He is really upset.
No, that was still the boxed wine.
Oh,
it was a boxed wine. White
boxed
Zin
wine
Padel, whatever the fuck it was.
In a 32-ounce cup.
Oh my God. So then they're playing Pittsburgh, who's really good, and they lose, but 27-24, and they make it really a game of it, right? But then they turn around, they lose to Cincinnati, 31-20. Now we don't give a fuck about Cincinnati. Now all of a sudden they're 5-2, and people are saying, "Uh-oh, they're headed to 9-7." Then they barely get by the Chicago Bears, the fucking Chicago Bears, who don't even have a quarterback. 24-17. By now, they're 6-2, and people are saying, I don't know about our team. Then they play the Indianapolis Colts, who really nobody thinks that highly of at that point in time, and they lose 34-17. And it's like, oh my God, we really do suck. We really suck. We're 6-3, but look who we're losing to. Then they turn it around when they have no chance against the Ravens at the Ravens. They win 30-24 in overtime. And then it's like, well, God, we have to play Indianapolis again. And they win 45-26, and they're up to 8-3. Let me tell you something about the Tennessee Titans. They know how to play a big game. The Cleveland Browns don't. That is the difference between these two 8-3 football teams. Well, 7-3 football teams. 8-3 football teams. The fact is that the Tennessee Titans didn't take teams seriously, but when they know they're in a game they got to take seriously, they lay down the law and they win. We don't know that about the Cleveland Browns because we really haven't. We play two good teams, and we've really gotten the only game that we played was against Indianapolis. And look, we beat Indianapolis in the closing seconds of the game. The Titans lost once and blew them out the second time. But you take a look at what this team does, and it's kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, they're efficient. Their game control quarterback is better than ours. He's giving them 250 yards a game. He's thrown 23 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. He's been sacked 15 times. And he has an 106 rating for the season. And he manages games with an average of 7.8 yards per completion, a long of 73. He's got A.J. Brown, and that's somebody who, I don't know, the Browns are going to be running behind him all day long. But it starts with what they are and what we are. And what they are offensively is very similar to what we are. They're a team that loves to run the football. The Browns have a 50% run percentage. They're a 50-50 team, folks. Y'all want to get down on Baker Mayfield. It's 50-50 team. They run the ball 50% of the time. They pass 50%. That's number one in the NFL. Most running-oriented team, Cleveland Browns. Number two, the Tennessee Titans. 47% of their play calls are running plays. And Derrick Henry averages 4.9 yards per carry, along with 94 yards. He averages 114 per game. And he's really good. If you don't get into the backfield on this guy, he is going to carry you for an additional 3 or 4 or 5 yards every time you make contact. And the Browns have not been in very many backfields this year. Even a backup like Jeremy McNichols is averaging 5.7 yards per carry. And even Tannehill has run 30 times and averaged 5.1 yards. They are what we are, and the difference is that they have a mean streak that we don't have, that we haven't yet acquired, that thick outer leather. That's why they play big games better, because they've been there and they've done that. And then you have an idiot like KhaDarel Hodge give them locker room fodder, only to find out that KhaDarel Hodge ain't playing. KhaDarel Hodge shoot his mouth off, and then he goes out in practice and he pulls his hamstring. And all he leaves us is with our dicks in our hands. And,
what did Hodge say?
Hodge, it wasn't that what he said was insulting. He just simply said, it's not like they're a super team. They can be beaten like anyone else. And then he made comments of how he felt the Browns were going to go deep into the playoff because of who they are. And, it's the kind of thing that probably isn't that flagrant a thing.
No.
But at the same time, you're saying that the other team really is not a super team and they're beatable. Well, the Browns had a chance to beat them last year and they didn't. And if you remember, their tight end, I forget what his name was. Why am I not remembering his name? He was one who said, before the game and then after the game, well, I told you they were who we thought they were, and that, and they stomped all over us. They have a very physical, aggressive side to them, something that the Browns defense just doesn't have. Now, like we said, they have given up points this year. It's not like they're not giving up points. It's not like their defense is the greatest defense in the world. However, there are things that they do. They only have 14 sacks this year. It's not like they're putting an abnormal amount of pressure on the quarterback, but they're mean and they're salty, and their head coach preaches the same kind of toughness and mental warfare approach that Harbaugh does in Baltimore. We talked about that in the last show, that, they were dancing on their logo in midfield, and they're territorial, they're alpha. And that is what they have going for them. They have receivers that can hurt you, and their receivers are healthy. By the way, we're down 2. KhaDarel Hodge not there, and Taywan Taylor, no, he got hurt too. I guess maybe the ball that hit him in the hands hurt him. But we have to bring somebody off the practice squad. So meanwhile, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Khalif Raymond, Adam Humphries, the gang's all here. Oh, and there's Ferkser, the tight end.
Yeah, they're without Jonnu Smith. their big tight end this weekend. So that's
right. But the thing is, Ferkser has 29 catches, and Jonnu Smith has 30.
Oh.
So they're not losing nothing there. They're not losing a damn thing. So, what I can tell you is they're healthy that way. A.J. Brown has a history of torching this team, and we have nobody to stop him because our primary pass defender is nowhere to be found. Denzel Ward's going to be gone for some time. But it's not a matter of making excuses. It's stating, knowing what you've got in front of you. It's kind of like if you go up, if you've ever been in competition, I've been in tennis tournaments with guys who played deep into tournaments, and they had a reservoir of things they could draw upon. That when I was younger, I didn't have that experience, and they were smart. And they knew how to go about things. And you know what teams like the Titans are good at? Getting you to the famed retribution calls against you. They will do something when the refs are not looking. You will slap back. You'll get the 15 yards. And God only knows the Browns will get. You mark my words, in this game, you're going to see it. You're going to start seeing all kinds of flags being thrown. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. The Browns have to be disciplined because this team plays nasty. And it isn't going to take like a little sanitary kind of hygienic performance by the Browns to beat this team. So, we've got to get through, and again, you can say that they're defensive minded, that coach definitely is, but statistically, as a team, their offense, is averaging, fair amount of yardage per game, man. I mean, they're not having, I wouldn't say that if your total, is, and I'm looking at this, 400 yards, about 396 yards per game. I don't think you're hurting for offense. I think Tannehill is a steward. And he's doing his job exactly the way Nick Foles would have done his when he was playing good football, 23 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He's not beating himself, and he's got a running game that will run people over. As for the Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski is talking about that Darryl Hodge isn't playing, that Myles Garrett is back, but nobody knows exactly how he's going to do with the timeout and with the weakness that the COVID virus gave him. That nobody knows how Taylor sustained his injury, and nobody really cares because he didn't do anything all year anyway. Sione Takitaki and defensive end Joe Jackson, they will technically be available. They've been reactivated, but whether they'll be able to contribute, nobody knows. But I would imagine that you'll see Takitaki on the field. But that isn't going to help you in other areas of the game. And I don't know what the answer is. If it were me, I would get my safeties up into that backfield, and I would take a chance. I'd rather take a chance with Tannehill and blitz my guys and get into the backfield than to stand there and play the stupid zone that we always play and stand around watching him just play catch with his tight ends and at the same time be playing on our heels and letting Derrick Henry just run right through us. There's
11, 13, 15 yards of crack.
That's right. Once he gets up a full head of steam, it's like Nick Chubb, you certainly don't want that coming at you unimpeded. The fact is, when you see teams stop Nick Chubb for whatever amount of time they can, it's all predicated on getting in the backfield before he gets that opportunity to make that first cut. And that's really what you're looking at is a power runner here. He's not Nick Chubb. He's a guy who's Jerome Bettis. You make him go east-west, man. If he's going north-south and he hits the line, hits the hole a yard in front of the line of scrimmage and has got a head of steam, it's going to roll right over you. Donovan Peoples-Jones will be playing at wide receiver. That should all make you feel much better. And you're going to see a lot of tight ends. A lot of tight ends. Because they have cheerleaders there. If you're wondering about this schedule thing I was talking about, you know, you pay eventually, right? The Browns have the second toughest remaining schedule of their AFC playoff challengers, and the Ravens have the easiest. Don't think for a minute that the Ravens are done. In fact, I will tell you the Ravens will be in the playoffs. In fact, I guarantee they will be in the playoffs. The only way that the Cleveland Browns get into the playoffs, they've got to beat the Titans. They've got to beat the Steelers. They got to beat the Ravens. One of those three things has to happen. And if Daniel Jones isn't back for the Giants, you should roll over that. You should roll over the Jets, who are going to be making sure after Sam Darnold is dead and buried that they're going to get a quarterback again. But the Ravens have the easiest schedule. The Browns have the toughest. As it stands right now, the Browns are number 5. And that's pretty good. But if you look at the Ravens' remaining schedule, a .336 winning percentage of their opponents. The Browns, 52.7%. You see, 0.527.
Well, but that's skewed because not only do they have the winless Jets, but they have an undefeated team as well. So
that's it. It skews things now, doesn't it? But the fact of the matter is, you've got 3 teams that most people believe you can't beat: the Titans, the Ravens, and the Steelers left in your schedule. You got to beat one of them. And if you don't beat one of them, then you really can't cry about not making the playoffs. You've had a very good, easy schedule.
Well, as things said, I would say the Ravens are probably the easiest team of the 3 to beat, straight up. But I also think that the Steelers are going to end up resting people at the end.
And not if they have a chance at a 16-0 season. You know, and the thing that's tricky about this is you can say that the Ravens would be the easiest to beat, and I would basically think that's the common wisdom, Brian. But they weren't so easy for the Steelers to beat, and they didn't have anybody on the field. That defense, I mean, they're going to maul the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns can't get a running game going against that Ravens defense. There ain't, you know, you ain't going to beat them dropping that quarterback back 40, 45 times. So that becomes a headbanging game. Physical. This, you know, Stefanski's done a wonderful job. He's, you know, a very heady guy. He is cerebral, okay? And that's good. I got no problem with that. But Joe Woods has not imparted any nastiness, meanness, no mean streak to that defense, no identity to the defense. And the fact of the matter is, we're going up against 3 teams that are fucking nasty teams, man. That's going to be the hard part. The Browns have to grow up in a big hurry. They got to win one of those 3 games to really earn their way into the playoffs. They may backdoor their way in, but I'd love to see us win one of these games, and it starts Sunday. You just don't know, because we've seen the ups and downs from the Titans. We've seen it. So you just don't know. It's and no, I don't think that the Cleveland Browns are like the Titans last year. Nothing similar at all. If you're a tough, rugged defensive squad, you can you know, jump into the playoffs. because you're hard to score on. The Browns will never be mistaken for a real physical defensive team. The personnel just isn't there. And I don't know. Whatever defensive schemes we're running, it's not confusing any quarterback. I haven't seen any quarterback, and that includes a guy who hadn't played for 74 years, you know? None of them have been confused. I mean, that was the thing they said about Belichick's zone defenses. They were, you know, schemed in such a way that they were disguised. There couldn't be much of a disguise on what the Browns are doing, you know? A guy comes out who's not been playing for years, and he's right on the money, and he's making the right reads. That means people are open. Primary receivers are open. You're not even making the guy go through his progressions. That's a problem. So if you're wondering, you know, which teams are, you know, as far as the other winning percentage thing, the Raiders 0.382. They beat us. So they have an advantage, a leg up on us that way. But the Raiders actually have one of the easiest. The Dolphins have the fifth hardest at a 0.573. So it goes like this. Easiest schedules like the Raiders, the Ravens, the Packers, the Seahawks, and the Titans. And the thing is, 3 of the Browns challengers are on the 5 easiest remaining schedules list. So, I mean, the Browns have to keep winning. That's just the way it goes. Eventually, you got to pay the band if you want to dance, folks. That's the way it works. Were you surprised to see that Dan Le Batard was leaving ESPN?
No.
Not really.
I was never a huge fan of his. Not that I disliked him. I mean, there are some guys who are just like Skip Bayless, who I wish would, you know, I could shove his head in a cannon and eject a cannonball and cause such cerebral damage, like hemorrhaging, that he would die. I don't feel that way about, you know, Pappy and Stugatz and the gang. But, you know, I didn't realize that he had taken quite a brave stand.
So stunning and brave. Give me a break.
No, I mean, you know, when you call out the president of the United States, you know, in reference to that whole Somalian representative, Ilhan Omar, Minnesota, you know, and then going on the air and criticizing ESPN for its stance on avoiding political topics, you know, they were waiting to have a good reason to get rid of him. And this was not one of these things where, you know, Dan Le Batard woke up in the morning and said, well, I'm through with this shit. I mean, they didn't renew his contract. Right? The same thing with Trey Wingo. Just a couple months back, they didn't offer him a re-up, so to speak. So, I don't know. I didn't know that about him. I would, you know, they moved his show to a different time slot, so I didn't even run into it very often. And I think that was the plan when they're going to phase you out. It's kind of like Dick Vitale. You know, he gets phased out. They're not going to fire Dick Vitale. I saw Dick the other day, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I've lost so much weight. It was in the shower, and I saw Dick for the first time in a long time. No, I did. He was sitting outside watching his son-in-law playing tennis at the facility I play at. And, you know, I put my hand on his shoulder, and he jumped. Then, oh, my God, you know. It's a Cameron crazy. He's going to strangle me. And we, you know, sat and had a nice conversation. And, you know, when they're done with you, they're done with you. You know, that's just kind of the way it works. And I don't even know if Vitale is doing anything. There's, you know, with the whole COVID thing in basketball, the season's on, but I don't know that anybody's really taking any of this stuff all that seriously at this point, because it's kind of wrecked things for a lot of people. So we got to pick the game. We got to pick this game. and there is a couple of people. I don't know who Marvin is though. Marvin, you're gonna have to credentialize yourself.
Marvin.
No.
Hi, Bronk. Marvin, you're going to have to say something in chat that makes me believe that you are a true Cleveland Browns fan before you get on the air. I'm the gatekeeper. So,
and not the keymaster. That was
right. So there you go. So if you can say something that is really coherent about the Cleveland Browns season this year, you'll be put on the air. But if not, I see that there are some fun, nice people in the chat room. I'm sure Marvin's one of them. So before you have a chance, Marvin, go suck a dick. Okay, let's go ahead and pick a game. We're going to start with Cow Say Tongue. Let's see it. Let's see the cow tongue. Let's see that. There you go. Very good. What are you doing? A Bill Belichick hoodie thing there? What's up?
Yeah. No, it's cold here. It's like 1 degree outside, 1 degree centigrade, not 1 degree Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Wow. It's cold.
So what do you think, Brock? This is a big game.
You know, I think whoever wins is going to win by a lot, like they did last year. But that may not be the case. So I'm going to pick the Browns in overtime, 34-31.
Wow, that's a bold pick. That's a bold pick, but it's a devotional pick. Good for you. Good for you. And Chuck Clark Sr. says, I'm a Steelers fan. I don't believe that because you spelled Steelers right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know that some of their lady friends are very knowledgeable, according to Chris Collinsworth? Did you hear he had to apologize for that comment?
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know why.
All right. Tony the Calf. Well, actually, Marvin was next, and Marvin is, running.
He's a Martian.
Thinking he's going to do it on the show here. Tony, what do you think?
It's the run games are even. I think it's going to come down to the passing game and how well the defense can get pressure on Tannehill. They haven't gotten much pressure lately. Hell, they only had. Did they not have a sack against? Was it 0 sacks against the Jags?
0 sacks against Glennon.
Mike Glennon of all people, you couldn't bring him down.
And a game they thought they would bring the kitchen sink at the guy.
Yeah,
they got a couple of hurries and a couple of hits, but that's it.
I don't see the Browns winning on Sunday. I think I'm going to go with the Titans 28-14.
28-14. All right, Liberty. First of all, Liberty Bell, you go, boy. You tell them. There you go.
I thought you were going to say Liberty Ford. Liberty Ford's in the Heights.
There you go. That's the big fuck Chuck. All right, and Liberty Bell does have an opinion on this game as well. We have a bunch of opinions. Rick is saying 31-27 Titans. Amsterdam, 27-21 Titans. Liberty Bell, God bless you. The Browns 31, the Titans 24. Let's hope that it would happen that way.
The one thing that's bad about this game is it's the live Sky game. So it's not only being beamed throughout America, but also throughout Europe, too. So let's hope they don't fucking lay an egg like they usually do when this is the case.
Hey, Derek, tell Derek to turn his camera on. I don't trust anybody anymore. Yeah, so there he is. All right, yeah. Well, good. And Hickamorphy, good. Mayfield outplays Tannehill. The problem is Tannehill doesn't really outplay people. He doesn't make mistakes. You're going to have to force Ryan Tannehill to make mistakes if you're hoping that Baker Mayfield's going to outplay that quarterback. There's so many factors to this game. All right, Derek, go ahead. You have the mic right now. Tony doesn't think you're going to win. What was your final pick score, Tony?
I said 28-14 Titans.
Okay. Derek, go.
Oh, hey, I apologize for being on so late. I just got off work, got home. So I think the Titans are going to win this game by like 10 points, maybe 14 points. I feel like the Browns offensively will be able to do their job. Like, I feel like they're going to have a pretty good game on offense. Defensively, I think we're going to get absolutely embarrassed. I think it's going to be a very, very bad game for the defense. I think Henry's going to absolutely dominate. I think the only way the Browns win is if they get lucky on a couple turnovers and they can just keep scoring. I mean, you know, it sounds cliche, but I really do think that that's going to be the only way. Because if you look at these two teams, to me, I think you're looking at two mirrors of each other. One is, I think the Titans are where the Browns want to be next season, a more complete team that is efficient at what they do best. But as far as a score prediction, 34-21 Titans.
Do we have a weather forecast on this game in Tennessee? What's the story with that?
It's supposed to be in the mid-40s and sunny, I think.
All right.
That was the last one I heard.
I do think Baker will have a pretty good game, though. I'll say that.
You know, it is nice. Chuck, I got nothing against the Steelers except they're the NFL's pampered team. They have a filthy prick for a coach, and you play dirty football. Besides that, I got nothing against your team. You know, and you know, you'll have a chance to sweep us. You've done it many times before. You'll have a chance again. But boy, I'll tell you, there is pressure on that 16-0, and a lot of teams have come close. Only one team's done it. And I still say Roethlisberger, he's getting rid of the ball on average 2.2 seconds. He is not standing in the pocket. He's short-arming a lot of passes that are more control-oriented throws. He's not going to the deep ball nearly as much. And clearly, he is one hit away. And I would love for Myles Garrett to get that hit and take him out. But be that as it may, right now you would be the favorite to win the game, my friend.
I think we might end up playing Mason Rudolph in the last week.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would be. Yeah, I don't think though that the Steelers are going to give up a 16-0 season to let the Browns
Not at all.
play.
Not at all. They'll play their starters if they're 15 now.
You know, this guy's asked me why don't I like the Steelers coach, because I think that he tells his players to play a filthy brand of football and again commit penalties when people are not watching, and then reaping the benefits that the league gives him over and over and over. My thoughts on the Giants. The Giants, you know, Daniel Jones looks like he can play, then he gets hurt. The team was losing everything, then it wins a few, and winning a few puts you back in the race, and that in the NFC East. But they're not going anywhere as long as, you know, with the whole Gettleman and the whole downhill spiral of that organization. And I don't think Daniel Jones is the real deal. I just think he's better than what else is out there. Who's his backup? Was it Colt McCoy?
Colt McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't win, you know, 6 passes for 31 yards. You can't win with that. So, you know, that's my take on, you know, and without Saquon, you lost, you know, the one thing that would scare people defensively, you lost that. It's tough. So Derek is saying maybe not close. I don't know who Sal DeLuca is, but Sal, you're going to have to prove again that you're a Browns fan if you want to be on the show. Brian, it's your turn to step up to the mic.
I'm going to pick the Titans 30-24.
And, you know, these scores make sense as far as the ability of the Titans to score. They have scored over 40 points twice this year. So they're no strangers to running up points on people, and usually it's because they're running over people, and then the team's just weary against them, and they pile on and pile on. That's what happened the second game against the Colts. They just wore them out, man, and just ran them off the field. And the Browns have the ability to score, but they don't have the ability, in my estimation, to keep up with the rapidity of points that the Browns are giving up defensively. That's the problem. If we could get them off the field, it would make a big difference, because the offense does a pretty good job in Cleveland of scoring points per possession. It's not been that bad. We've scored over 30 points on several occasions.
Hey, Moo, before we end, I know you said show myself. Is there something that happened?
Oh, yeah, we just got a bunch of people in the chat room who are, people who are just
unidentified.
Yeah, and clowning, and I don't want to run videos. And sometimes,
I was gonna say, because I know there was that one incident. I can't remember when it was.
We don't need that. There's no time for that kind of crap. Bronk.
I'll make a comment about last year's game. That game was close until the absolute wheels came off. We gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter. There were 3 turnovers that we had. They had none. We also had 18 penalties for 182 yards. And even so, that game was still close so all we have to do, instead of playing 3 quarters of football, we have to play 4 quarters of football. And I think we're capable of doing that. I'm not saying go out and bet on the Browns, even though I predicted them, because the Titans deserve to be favorites in this game. But I think this is not a non-winnable game.
Is Greg Robinson in jail right now?
He should be, because he took people's money by pretending he was a football player.
Don't I remember? I know he got stopped at the border with weed or something. I didn't know if he was
a little weed either. Huge
Cheech and Chong quantities amounts of weed.
I can't believe that he was. What was he, like the 3rd pick in that draft?
Everybody gave him a chance, and he didn't give himself a chance. And the Steeler fan, 18 penalties, badly coached team. You don't see the Browns bringing 18 penalties this year. But there was no handle on things under Freddie Kitchens whatsoever. So
one last question: how are the refs going to play this? Are they going to play it a straight game, or are they going to screw us over, or are they going to screw the Titans over?
I think that if we come out and get pushed around, they don't need to worry about that. If we're playing a close game with them, I guarantee you that Tennessee will get all the calls.
Okay, so we're predicting Tennessee. So then that's another reason.
But I think they need to get the Ravens in for ratings purposes. I mean, they want numbers, man. They want numbers. And the teams that draw the numbers, you got an undefeated football team in Pittsburgh. You've got the Seahawks, who have, Russell Wilson. You've got, Buffalo, who's going to win the East, and the up-and-coming quarterback there. You've got, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, who's a superstar. But the Cleveland Browns don't fit into those plans. Right now, the Browns have to prove they can win big games, and they can't afford, A, to get pushed around, or B, not to put games away like last week, where we had an opportunity to end the game by kicking a field goal and that would have turned out to be a 37-yard field goal, and you walked away from ending the game to prove a point that you could push forward for an extra yard. Yeah, we got a bad spot, but we didn't move the line very far. You got to prove you can close out these games any way possible. And your kicker, you brought in Parkey to kick the ball and to give him pressure situations before the playoffs begin. You got to give him a chance to kick that field goal. So,
who's the guy? Is it Romo? This is a spotlight game. So is it Romo or
no.
Who's the other guy? Who's is it CBS or Fox? I don't know.
It's the big
CBS.
game.
Hold on, I'll have it in just a second.
Okay.
So normally the refs play it straighter when it's the big game, when it's the spotlight game of the week.
It's a spotlight game of the week. Your telecasters are Ian Eagle and Charles Davis.
I'm so very sorry to hear that.
Wow.
Hey, Moo. I was just gonna ask real quick before we ended.
Yep.
Do you guys feel, and this is for everybody, do you guys feel that at least coming off of this game, the best thing that could happen outside of a win would be sorry, it went down the wrong
Chucky
pipe.
temperature, dude.
Went down the wrong pipe. I'm sorry. To be at least competitive. You know what I mean? Like to where you.
I mean, it's baby steps. When you're a team that is 8-3, but an unproven 8-3, and you're going up against an 8-3 team that was in the AFC Championship game last year and is coming on doing well in the last couple of weeks. You want to show that you belong on the field with them. And look, they lost to the Colts and just literally 2 weeks later hammered them 45-26. You got to prove that you're competitive. The Browns are going to lose this football game 31-20. I'm not happy to say that, but again, the real question in my mind is at what time do you put your foot down? You know, my buddy Stan Bertigliano would say you control your destiny. And if you win in a game like this that you're not expected to win, you have just lined the way to the playoffs, and nobody can question that you belong in the playoffs. Any one of these games that I was mentioning, the Titans, the Ravens, the Steelers, if you win any one of those games, nobody can argue that you belong and deserve to be in the playoffs. But if you lose all three of those games, and you back into the playoffs at 10-6 somehow, then people are going to keep on asking the questions about just how tough you are mentally, physically, and whether you can play up to this when it counts the most. So,
and if the Browns
Spammers get blocked, fuck off, Steelers fan. Go drown in the fucking.
Nah, Chuck Clark, I'm sure, is a good Steelers fan, and he.
You know what the best Steelers fan is?
Oh, dad.
Exactly.
Well,
I know how you think, Brian.
Well, but no, I look at it differently. Chuck was stuck in the short bus all those years.
That's what happens when you're, baptized in the Allegheny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But don't you guys think if the Browns pull this game off, don't you think that the rest of the games on the schedule you should at least be? Most of them are winnable. The only one you shouldn't at least compete in, or not compete in, but if the Browns beat the Titans, the only game that you wouldn't be expected to win would be against the Steelers at the end.
Well, this is the perfect time for the philosophy of 1 week at a time. Anybody on the team looking ahead past this game, thinking, "Oh, we got 4 wins or 3 wins coming up," that's not the way they should be looking at it. So,
and I'll tell you the one thing that I like about the Browns this year. Nobody on the team is walking around with a swelled head because we're just getting by every week. We're not slamming people. We're not taking the weaker competition and hammering them into the ground by run-up scores or anything like that, and then laying down for the Steelers and the Ravens. We are playing close, tight games week in, week out, where our heads aren't big. The fact of the matter is we know that we're a lunch bucket group. We got to get to work and win any way we can, and that's without a defensive secondary and without really top-grade linebackers. So the defense is hurting us.
And that's probably best, though, for this team, being that they are so young with the new head coach. They need to learn how to win first. Even if it is close, they need to learn how to gut these games out. Because the good teams beat the bad teams no matter how. Look at the Steelers this year. You can say they're not the best. You can say they're not the Chiefs, but they're winning the games they're supposed to, even if they are close. So that's step one to get to the next level for Stefanski.
That's right. And what it comes down to is you can't – and if you do get beat up bad against a team like the Titans, you got to come back out and show resilience like we did after we lost to the Raiders. You get pushed around, then you got to come back and you got to get your stuff together again. the worst thing in one respect would be for the team to go out and win and then thinking they're better than what they are. I think they're a pretty grounded bunch, and I think Stefanski's a pretty grounded guy. And the team is playing like they are literally trying to win week to week, which is the smart way of looking at this. I just hope that we can play competitively.
The point that you made earlier about avoiding these retaliations that the Titans are going to try, I mean, that was a major problem last season in that game. So if we can't let them wind us up and get silly penalties and 15-yard tauntings and unsportsmanlike conducts and roughing the passer and all the other bullshit penalties that the refs are just dying to call on us, if we can avoid all that, we have a chance.
Yeah, and I think hello to Michael Martinez. I'm doing fine. I hope you are too.
Wow, Giants logo. That's brave.
Hakika Morphy. What can I tell you? I would say the Browns could score 40 points against people.
Yes.
You got to have downfield passing game more. We don't have much outside speed since we lost OBJ. Not the best, So
and there's not a whole lot of creativity in the passing game too. It seems like it's all very similar blueprints to.
It takes us a while to score. Scoring 40 points is really hard if your running game is working. You don't want to get into a shootout with teams because the defense, your defense is going to fold. You're not going to be able to. You don't want to get into overtime games because your defense will give up the score. The touchdown that will negate the entire overtime and end the game. So what you have is what we have, which is a running game, and it takes us a while to get down the field. And every minute we possess the ball, the other team does not, and it makes every possession count. That's where turnovers make a difference. And if you can get 1 or 2 turnovers in a game like this and control the time of possession, that's how the Browns wind up winning. If you get to 31 points, I think they're going to give up. You're not going to win.
And lucky for us, Cody Parkey has been very consistent with his kicking. So at least you have that to be pretty reliable for you if you can get down in a position to score. At least you can count on Cody to rack up 3.
No, I don't know who Tommy is. I don't know. You have to be a little bit more clear, Tommy. I mean, he's the deaf, dumb, and blind kid who played pinball. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, from Soho down to Brighton.
And this worries me too. Empty sets in the backfield aren't going to go over very well. They have not done well statistically for the Browns.
Freddie used to do that so much last year.
Yeah,
he used to go empty. Yeah.
I mean, we got Janovich back, don't we? Isn't he off the COVID list? We got a fullback now again.
Yeah, Janovich is back, and but that's going to be more short yardage kinds of situations. But having a lead blocker against a team like this is not a bad thing to have. I hope he's ready to play because he's going to have to. We've pretty well abandoned that whole set. The sheer, the power set.
The people that have been on the reserve list for COVID, how sick have they been? Have there been people that have been super sick, or have been people that aren't sick, or are there people that are a little bit sick? That's one thing we don't know. We're going to find out pretty quickly about Myles Garrett if he's gassed 8 minutes into the first quarter, whether he's sick or not.
It's going to be a challenge for him. I think it's going to be a challenge for the whole team. I'm going to get out of here because I'm done with everything that I wanted to say. I really hope that we can just be a competitive, team out there against better opponents, and that'll give us more hope than anything. And to win one of the 3, I'd love to see us in the playoffs just to get there. You got to put your feet in the water before you swim.
Isn't it weird to see it on paper when they talk about the playoff picture and it's like, oh, hey, look, there we are.
5th seed, man. 5th seed. And that's locked in if we win every game.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. I appreciate your patronage. We'll be back again. Halftime and postgame. Here we go again. The halftime show on Sunday. It's a 1 o'clock start for the Browns, and we'll be here that and after the game for the postgame. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back, I promise you, at the half. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Go Browns, and Steelers, suck my dick. Good night, everybody.